Have you ever wondered what makes your muscles, hair, and some part of immune system? The answer lies in one incredible biomolecules known as proteins. So let's look at the chemistry of the proteins and how it carries out a diverse biological roles in our body. So, of course, when we say proteins are the building blocks of life, they are considered as the building blocks of life because they are responsible for controlling the structure and the functions of all living organisms. Like, for example, if you take human, we have various cells in our body. We have over 220 different cell types in our body. And each of these cells, they have their own specific functions and they have their own specific structure. So this structure and the functions of these different cells in our body is determined by the proteins. Like hemoglobin is responsible for the transport of oxygen because of the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. And of course, at the same time, the red blood cell is biconcave because of this hemoglobin. So if you take it almost everywhere, it's because of the chemistry. Like for example, if you take the brain, it's responsible for cognitive functions. Why? It's because of the chemistry. What are the chemistry? The proteins that are there. So very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the proteins is considered as essential biomolecules that control each and every functions and structure of each and every living organism. So that is why, as a student of nursing, as a student of, or as a medical student, you need to understand the concept of biochemistry. Why? Because when we are talking about the study of structure of living organisms is physiology. The study of structure of living organisms is anatomy. So when you look at the anatomy, it deals with the study of the internal structure of a living organism, while physiology, it deals with the study of the functions of the body system. So as from here, you can see that proteins is what determine the structure and the functions of each and every living organism. So it means that the study of anatomy and physiology relies on the study of the biomolecules like the proteins, because these biomolecules is what determine the structure and the functions of living organisms. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, chemistry is what make one organ differ from one another. Chemistry is what make one organisms different from one another. It's what makes one cells differ from one another. So that is why you need to understand that chemistry explains the diverse rules in biological system. So it is the chemistry that diverse, or that trying to explain the diverse roles of living system, how living organisms differ from one another, depend on these proteins and the biomolecules that are found in the living organisms. And as you can see from here, proteins have diverse role like immunity, because of course there are thousands of microorganisms that get into our body. So it is immune system that trying to defend our body system. So proteins are involved in the immunity of our body. Then the second function is involved in catalysis. There are thousands of reactions that are taking place in our body, and some of the reaction can take days or years. So, but the use of enzymes speeds up the rate of the chemical reactions by lowering activation energy. So that's and the second functions of proteins. And also involved in the maintaining the structure of the living organisms. Like for example, there are what we call structural proteins. Like in this case, you can see that we have collagen, we have keratin. Collagen and keratin are the examples of structural proteins that provide strength and support to our body. And also at the same time, these proteins, they control the transportation of substances across the cell membrane and throughout the body. Like ferritin and hemoglobin, they are transport proteins that are found in our body. So this ferritin and hemoglobin, they are proteins in transport, and also at the same time, across the cell membrane, substances get in and out. So that is why the membrane is selective permeable. And this is because there are proteins on the cell membrane. We have what you call integral protein and also peripheral protein. So integral proteins, they are proteins that are fully embedded into the cell membrane. So they are actually very important in transporting what get in and out of the cell. So it transports substances. And then signalins, as you can see, the last one here is signalin. Cells do communicate with one another. So how cells communicate with one another is through the proteins which transmit signals to coordinate all the cellular activities. And as you can see that, of course, proteins are the building blocks of amino acid, which made up of carboxylic group, amino group, hydrogen, and then R side chain. And very importantly, these proteins are formed as a result of the link between peptide bonds. So one amino acid linked with another amino acid through peptide bond formation. So now let's look at the structure of the amino acid very well. So the basic structure of amino acid, each amino acid is made up of carboxylic group and amino group, and it has hydrogen. So every amino acid contains amino group, carboxylic group, and hydrogen. And the last one is acid chain, which is a unique to each amino acid. So each and every amino acid has its own unique acid chains. Like for example, in the case of glycine, the R is substituted with hydrogen. Alanine, the R is substituted with CH3, that is methyl group. So each and every amino acid has its own unique R side chain. And then very importantly, we have about 20 standard amino acids that combines to form proteins. Although in nature, we have over 330 different amino acids, but it is only 200 of them that are found in the proteins. So now let's look at the peptide bond formation. How peptide bond is formed. A peptide is a covalent bond which formed by the condensation reaction between the carboxylic group of one amino acid and the amino group of another amino acid. So why is it that it is called condensation reaction? It is condensation because when two molecules are joined together and releases smaller molecules like ammonia and water, that is what we call condensation reaction. And that is even unique about condensation reaction compared to polymerization reaction. Because in the case of polymerization, smaller molecules can join to produce a larger one without release of molecules. But in the case of condensation reaction, smaller molecules join together to produce a larger one with the release of smaller molecules. Like in this case where peptide bond is formed, as you can see clearly, this is amino acid 1 and this is amino acid 2. And as you can see in the amino acid 1, we have carboxylic group. And of course, in the amino acid 2, this is the amino group. So as you can see, the carboxylic group of amino acid 1 and the carboxylic group of amino acid 2, they condense and then they form what you call a peptide bond. So this is what you call a peptide bond. You can call it amide bond. And through the process, you can see that one molecules of water has released. So this is actually condensation reaction. So what is this peptide? A peptide bond linked carboxylic carbon of one amino acid to the amino group of another amino acid. And as you can see, some of the characteristics of this peptide bond include that the carbon to nitrogen bond with partial double bond character. So it has a carbon to nitrogen bond with partial double bond. And then second, it is shorter than a typical carbon to nitrogen single bond. So it is shorter is because of that partial double bond that exists between the that is present in the carbon to nitrogen. And then the last one, the peptide bond, it is rigid and planar. So this partial double bond and the peptide bond lead to the formation of resonance. So resonance forms contributing to the partial double bond character. So because of this resonance form that is formed, it contributed to the partial bond character. And as you can see that the rigidity and the rigidity and planarity of the peptide bond, of course, as you can see that the peptide bond is planar because of the partial double bond character. And because of this partial double bond character is restrict rotation of the peptide bond. So it is restricted, it is not mobile. So then now let's look at the various levels of structure of proteins. So proteins have various levels of structures. We have primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure, and quaternary structure of the proteins. So let's look at them one after the other. So in the case of, we have primary structure, and the primary structure of the proteins, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, that of course, it determines the overall shape and the functions of the protein. So the primary structure of the proteins is what will determine how the shape of the proteins will be and what functions that proteins will undergo. And then the secondary structure, it involves the local folding patterns. So the local folding pattern, locals folding patterns, like in the case of alpha helix and beta flated sheet, which are stabilized by the hydrogen bonding, is actually what leads to the secondary structure. So we have a local folding patterns. Why is it that we call it local folding patterns? Is because the folding is between a single polypeptide chain, especially from the R side chains. So let's look at the alpha helix, as you can see from here. So in the case of alpha helix, the hydrogen bond is formed. But how the hydrogen bond formed? The hydrogen bonds are formed between tons. You see, this is a tons. This is a ton. So you have tons like this. This is a tons. So you see the hydrogen bond is formed in between the ton. So that is why it is alpha helix. But in the case of the beta sheet, the adjacent strands are lined side by side, which stabilizes by hydrogen bonding. So the hydrogen bonding in the case of beta flated sheet, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see clearly, is because of the side-to-side hydrogen bond formation. So it is stabilized by hydrogen bond forms side by side. And as you can see that, of course, in the case of the primary structure of the protein is determined by the linear sequence of the amino acid in a polypeptide chain. So the peptide bond that linked one amino acid with another is what actually determines the primary structure of the proteins. So now, let's look at the tertiary structure and quaternary structure. So in the case of tertiary structure, the tertiary structure is a three-dimensional folding of a side polypeptide chain driven by interactions among R groups. So you see, in the case of, you see the primary structures is formed by the result of peptide bonds. The secondary structure is formed by or stabilizes by hydrogen bonds. In the case of alpha sheets, is formed as a result of the hydrogen bonding in a ton. While for the beta flated sheet, it's side-by-side hydrogen bonding that stabilizes it. And then, of course, in the case of tertiary structure, is as a result of the three-dimensional folding of a single polypeptide chain driven by interactions among R groups. So the R groups, the R side chain of the same polypeptide chain fold by interacting forces. And what are those interacting forces? So the key forces that are stabilizing tertiary and quaternary structures of the proteins include disulfide bonds. So the covalent bond between the cysteine R groups is one of the types of interacting forces that stabilizes the tertiary and quaternary structure of the protein. So disulfide bond is one of it. And then the second one is hydrophobic interactions. So the non-polar R groups cluster to avoid water. So that is actually lead to the formation of hydrophobic bonds. So the non-polar component, they will cluster together. So the non-polar groups will interact together and this clustered in the protein core. And then the next one is ionic bond, that is salt bridges. Electrostatic attractions between oppositely charged groups is actually also one of the contributing. Like for example, in the case of amino group, they have positive charge. Carboxylic group have negative charge. So they'll interact with one another through ionic bonding. So these are the three main forces or three main interacting forces that make the tertiary and quaternary structure of the proteins. But in the case of quaternary structure of the proteins, the quaternary structure, it involves the assembly of multiple polypeptide chains. So multiple polypeptide chains are formed in order to form a functional protein complex. Like for example, hemoglobin. A hemoglobin is a tetramer. A tetramer means it has 4 polypeptide subunits. It has 2 alpha units and 2 beta units. We have alpha 1, alpha 2, and we have beta 1 and beta 2. So there are 4 subunits. So the interaction of 4 different subunits through these key stabilizing forces lead to the formation of quaternary structure of the protein. And very importantly, the quaternary structure of the proteins is determined by also these interacting forces. And each and every functions of the proteins depend on their quaternary structure If proteins loses their quaternary structure, it means they loses their functions. So that is the most important thing. So what are the chemical properties and functionalities? So the specific chemical properties of amino acid side change influence protein folding and activity. So remember, the amino acid, they have their amino acid side change. So the amino acid side change is what the key determining factor of protein folding and activity. Enzymes are proteins which rely on their chemistry for catalysis and specificity. So the chemistry of the enzyme is what determines their catalysis and specificity. And changes in structures like mutation can significantly impact protein functions. So these are the things that you need to know in terms of the chemical structures and functionality of proteins. So ladies and gentlemen, if you need more videos on this, please don't forget to subscribe and follow my YouTube channel so that you can have access to most of my videos. Thank you very much and see you next.